The first upcoming issue I'll lift up is FECA. So for those who don't know, FECA was put into law. It stands for Florida's Environmental and Conservation Act, Energy and Conservation Act, FECA. And in 1980, it was really put into place to help ensure that energy efficiency would be a part of Florida's energy efforts, in the sense that there's an understanding that energy efficiency is really important for both our low-income families and also for the health and safety of our state. We know that in so many of our low-income communities, air pollution is a big issue of concern. We also know that, of course, the cost of energy is always a burden for many families, especially families with low income. And so the state has really valued just a prioritization of energy efficiency as need to be a part of the energy dialogue. Mm-hmm. And as advocates for renewable energy, again, as we already talked about, we also know that having efficient systems is tied to the transition to solar. So they really have to be together. And the states that have the best policies on energy tend to have goals on both efficiency and renewable production. They tend to be, tied together, one and the same. And we also know that job creation and energy efficiency has been one of the most robust, and it really is a field that has been historically growing as more and more Americans want to pursue renewable energy and see their costs go down. Now, with all that said, we also know that energy efficiency is not exactly a priority for the utilities, because they lose money. When you are more efficient, they lose money. And so the PSC has long used a cost-benefit analysis measurement called the RIM test, which is the ratepayer impact measurement. And in an effort not to get too much into the weeds, the RIM test doesn't measure any of the benefits we just talked about. All it does is really measure the cost to the utility company without measuring any of the other positive impacts that energy efficiency brings. And so if we only use the RIM test, it gives off the impression that energy efficiency is not cost effective, that it doesn't make sense to pursue. And it's led to the PSC last summer almost eliminating our efficiency goals completely and bringing them down to 0%. And myself and JJR, as I mentioned earlier, we went to the PSC meeting. We actually testified, against zero efficiency goals. We testified to move away from the RIM test and to, really host a workshop to determine the best methodology. But I do think that that CRT is a better one to pursue, but there's other options out there and other models from states to look at too. But ultimately, we all know that the RIM test is so archaic. And I think Florida is the only state that still does the RIM test, which is probably why Florida is one of the worst states on energy efficiency in the country and in the Southeast to this day.
So what kind of factors are taken into consideration here? Like impact on the environment and stuff like that?
Correct. Yeah. All they're looking at is that this is costing utility companies more, thus it must be bad. But there's other, methods of measurement out there, and I always keep a list of them like close to me, because again, I don't from an energy policy world, so I always am like doing my homework and reviewing all layers to this. But there are so many other methods out there that other states pursue that really just provide a more holistic measurement for that, to your point, includes the benefit to the environment, the benefit to the ratepayer. It takes into consideration the externalities that no energy efficiency causes. And so it wasn't just, lawmakers. There were over 5,000 petitioners as well that sent letters to the PSC, led by some great advocacy organizations that really spearheaded the organizing effort. And the PSC decided to not adopt the 0% as the goal, but to maintain the same goal, which was still pretty low, but at least it wasn't zero. And so that's on the table again. They're gonna look at FECA again, and there is an effort to push the PSC to host a workshop to invite different stakeholders to help just educate the greater public and the PSC on different cost-benefit analysis tests, so that we can be more proactive in looking at what are other states doing, why is a rim test not a good choice for us, and you know, pushing the PSC to evolve into the future when it comes to measuring efficiency. So that's one of the biggest issues right now in front of us. And then the other one is net metering. And we've known for a long time that net metering has been at risk. Actually, this summer, I just saw that FERC, the Federal Energy Commission, Regulatory Commission, rejected a request to totally basically preempt net metering, to take
Wow.
state decisions away from net metering and bring it to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And fortunately, FERC like completely rejected that idea. And even Senator Elizabeth Warren wrote a letter against that idea. But it just highlights, especially, it's frustrating too, because during this pandemic, I know for me, I am stretched in so many different directions when it comes to, you know, responding to constituents and different issues, that I can't keep an eye on the energy policy. And it's like super sketched to like try to eliminate net metering across the country during a pandemic. This was in July. So it's like, okay, like we see how you guys work, you know what I mean? But unfortunately the FERC totally rejected that idea. But net metering is on the table again here in Florida. And it's really important that we push the PSC to protect net metering. And I think that's going to be one of the next battles in the legislature as well.
Is there a reason that now it's come up again? Is there a new concern or something, or any reason for it?
Well, candidly, for the last 2 years I've been in the legislature, it's been something of just caution for all of us. Like, I don't know if there's just like an overarching, you know, fear that advocates have, or if something was once said, but there's been a lot of the debate around FECA. Many advocates have said that any type of legislative effort to reform FECA could be a way to sneak in net metering changes. Mm-hmm. And so, and for those unfamiliar with the legislative process, you know, if you file a bill and that bill moves through the process, amendments that are related to the bill can be easily filed. You can even do what's called a strike-all amendment, which changes the entire bill as long as the language is relevant to what the issue is. So if somebody were to file a bill to change FECA, you're opening up that statute in Florida law, which opens up the floodgates for someone to file a net metering change as well. Wow. And so, like you were saying earlier, Daren, it's like you got to watch, you know, all these, read the language, decide what it, you know, interpret it, what it means, and so forth.
Guess where they're coming from and what their interests are and what they're trying to do.
100%. Well, and we have seen, you know, some local utility companies, I believe Lakeland was one of them, that, you know, basically try to like change net metering ratios. And again, like we all know that net metering is so critical to just incentivizing homeowners to make that initial cost and to pursue solar. Like we know that's, I mean, as you said earlier, I think before we got started, like without net metering, y'all wouldn't exist, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the tax credit is a nice incentive that helps the financial model, but net metering is essential. If there's no net metering, there's no solar industry.
Right. And I think that you know, everyone who is interested in solar is thinking about it for long-term purposes too, right? Because the thought too is that over time it pays for itself, right? Exactly. Without net metering, it's not going to do that.
That's why so many people in Nevada were really mad when they killed net metering. Right. I bought this based on my expectation of a 30-year asset. Right. I've had it for 2 years, and now you just took it away from me.
Right.
I'll have the stuff on my roof.
Right. 100%.
So until we reach grid saturation, there's really no reason to ever do away with net metering. And my business partner installed maybe 100 or 200 solar systems in St. Thomas in U.S. Virgin Islands before opening up the second branch of Goldin Solar. And so they were way further down the line of that duck curve. Natural energy is very, very expensive on an island. Right. So for those same kilowatt hours that you can produce on an island, it's worth all that much more money. And so they had gotten to the point where, you know, they were really got to the end of net metering. It wasn't because of some political agenda. It's because there really is only so much power that the grid can take back uncontrolled at exactly the same time. It's incidentally at 12 o'clock when the sun is out, everybody's pumping the power back on the grid at the same time. So this is
Right.
what he's talking about when he says 10, 15% grid saturation. We have a long way to get there. I don't think we're past half of a percentage of our grid being solar. And like Dane said, by the time we get there, we're going to see huge breakthroughs and progress on battery technology. In fact, what I'm counting on is that more people own electric vehicles, and then you have vehicle to grid technology where instead of having to invest
Right.
in batteries strictly for your home, you can use your car as your net meter. You can use your car to accept the extra power from the
Totally. No, I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. And I think that electric vehicles, for many folks too, is kind of like their first touch, with energy issues and with the evolution of energy. And so I definitely agree with you on that.